Okay. Hi, students. This week and the lessons from now on are going to be a little bit different. Instead of trying to teach you grammar all the time, I'm going to start teaching you English by asking you questions and um, helping you to think about how to express yourself, how to talk about what you think in English. This is hard when I'm not in the class with you because when you're talking to somebody in person, it's a little different than over a video because you can't ask them questions, you can't tell me to stop or tell me that you don't understand something. So if there's something that's really bugging you or if there's a question that you have, you can call me on the phone, you can text me, we can figure a way out to get things working well. But I just wanted to start the lessons in this way to just see if this works well and this is helpful to you because I want to help you. Some of you said that your goal is to be a nurse, you want to be promoted at your job, you want to be able to express yourself in English and be understood, which I love that. I want to help you get there. But sometimes it's hard to know exactly what I can teach you to help you. So we're going to start by talking about questions and reading and listening and practice writing things to help us learn how to feel more comfortable speaking in English, or writing in English. So today, I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller. Today, what I wanted to talk about is what makes a good parent? So this will be our question for the week. So what makes a good parent? So good is, a good parent. What does a good parent do, right? Meaning, what kind of actions do good parents have? What kind of qualities do they have? Qualities just means uh, it's things that people have about them that help them to do things. So uh, a quality somebody could have is they are a good listener, or they are really good at making people feel comfortable. That's a quality. So we're going to talk about what makes a good parent. And to start off, what we're going to talk about is think about your culture. Think about where you grew up, where you're from. If you lived in lots of different places, what was it like, where you lived? How are children treated? So how do people, um, talk to children? How do people think about children in your culture? Or your family? How does your family treat children? Are there laws to protect children? Are large or small families common? Who raised the children? Is it the mom that's supposed to raise the kid? Is it the dad that's supposed to raise the kid? Is it them together? Does it matter if there's two parents? Is it, aunts and uncles that raise the kid? Is it grandmas or grandpas that raise the kids? Who is it that raises the kids? Who is responsible for children? And the word responsible just means who is responsible. So who is the person that needs to take care of them? Who, if something happens, they're the ones that fix it. Do children represent their parent? So these are some of the questions to think about. So are there big families? Like, do families have lots of children in them? Or are there small families? Is it like one or two kids? So this is one of the things that we can think about is think about your culture, think about your family, think about what you've seen, what are the types of things, the different ideas of what makes a good parent? What is parenting, right? Parenting turns into a verb, it's an action, parenting. Yeah, so in English, you can take a noun, which is parent, right? That's a person, and you can turn it into a verb by adding the ing at the end, the ing sound, parenting, and it turns into a verb. What is parenting? What is the action of being a parent? So I'll just talk a little bit about in my culture, this isn't really how I think parents should be, what makes a good parent, but this is how I saw a lot of parents act and how children were treated where I grew up. So in my culture, children are very important. So people think children are they use the word a lot, like precious. They're very special. You can't replace them, that kind of thing. So they're very, very important. The other thing in my culture is children must respect their parents. So in my culture, children they need to always listen to their parents, and they need to follow the rules in the house. So children must always listen to their parents. So that's my culture. Um, Good parents, these are some of the things that are important to be a good parent. Good parents provide everything a child needs. So in my culture, good parents um, make sure that they have money to make sure that their kids have food and clothes, and that they can um, not always get everything that they want, but that they'll be able to buy them gifts if they want them, that they can help them if they want to do like fun trips at school. In high school in America, a lot of um, like orchestra or band, or there are sports like football where they will take trips overnight to different states to compete against other teams. So that costs money. And so good parents make money to pay for the things their kid needs. So, and kid is another way to say child, right? We can say children or kids. Kids is the same thing as child. Good parents do not physically hurt their children. So it's against the law in the United States to like hit your kids and punch them and hurt them physically. So if you're hurting their body, that's not good. Good parents are not cruel to their children. So what does this word mean, cruel? Cruel. So cruel is when somebody is mean, but they do it in a way to make that person feel really bad, to make them feel like they're not important, that they don't deserve anything. So, for example, good parents don't tell their kid, oh, you're worthless, you don't mean anything. You're such a bad kid, you're so dumb. That's not what good parents do. Good parents help their kids feel good about themselves. Good parents have control over their children. So this is kind of something that's weird because it's like, oh, children are so important, but good parents have control over their children, which means that they are able to make sure that they're not doing bad things. So whenever there's a kid that misbehaves, whether it's something really small, like they hit another kid, or they talk back to a teacher, or they say something mean, people in like where I grew up didn't look at the kid and say, that's a bad kid. They said, that kid has bad parents. So the actions of the kid show what the parent is like, in where I grew up. So kids, when they did something wrong, the parents were blamed. So that's something that happened in my culture. So now we're just gonna talk about, what do you think? What was it like for you when you were a child, when you were a kid? So think about when you were a child. How were you treated, right? In the past, how were you treated? How did people talk to you? Is there a difference between a young child, like one that's like 5 or 7, and an older child, which is, 14 or 16? Are 14 or 16-year-old kids considered kids, or are they considered adults? So think about when you were a kid, think about when you were a child, and think about, how did people treat me? What was acceptable? What was good? What did my parents do? Were my parents good parents? Did they help me? And think about, what makes a good parent to you? You could have been raised a certain way. When I say raised, it doesn't mean like lift. It can mean, it is kind of going up. So raised means to grow up, right? It means to get older. So when you say I raised a kid, it means that you took care of a kid until they got older. So you can think about, what makes a good parent? What is there something your parents did that you didn't like, that you did differently, that you chose to be different from your parents when you raised your kid? Or if you don't have kids, how would you? Do you see other people with kids and say, that's not a good way to be a parent? So just think about, like, is it how they act? Is it how children are treated that's important? Is the focus on the child or the parent? What makes a good parent? What makes them a parent that's, is good, is acceptable? So now we're going to read a little article. An article is a short story or short information that is written on a subject, and you can find them on websites and in newspapers. So this one, I found, this is just from like a magazine called Business Insider, and it's called 7 Ways Being a Parent is Different Around the World. So we're going to talk about this article is going to talk about the different ways parenting is different, because parenting is different everywhere. Everybody treats being a parent differently. So parenthood just means like when you're a parent. So that's what that means. So parenthood just means that that person was a parent or is a parent. Looks different in every culture around the world. So in some places, kids don't start school until the age of 7, have minimal, that means small, homework, and take long breaks during school. Here are 7 unique parenting styles. Unique is like different or special, from around the world that could leave Americans shocked or jealous. So this is written from the perspective of Americans who have very Western traditions of raising kids. But some of you could be reading this and being like, oh, that's not, new to me. That's how I was raised. Or I knew people that were raised that way, that grew up that way. So for this, you can practice reading by pausing the video and just reading by yourself, or you can read with me. So the first one says, independence at a young age. Independence is just like the word independent, right? It just means that somebody can work or do things alone. They don't need other people. So it says, in Japan, children as young as 6 years old walk to school and run errands sans supervision, even in the bustling city of Tokyo, according to The Atlantic. So this is another newspaper, The Atlantic. The country's crime rates are exceptionally low, and parents expect others in the community to help look after their children. So this first paragraph right here, it just is saying that children are very young when they are out doing things by themselves alone with no parent, because the crimes that happen in Tokyo in Japan are very low. Exceptionally low just means that they're really low, that it's very different from everywhere else. And parents expect others in the community to help look after their children. So that's saying that, you know, in Japan, people, when they see kids, they help them if they can, and they try and watch out for them. They try to make sure that they're doing okay. Kids don't need a chaperone. A chaperone is just an adult. That's a French word for somebody who's an adult that looks after kids to help get them to school. Nor, that just means no, do they need anyone else cleaning up after them once there. From as early as first grade, Japanese students, so these are like kids at school, sweep and mop classrooms and hallways, dust, and even sometimes clean the bathrooms in their schools. So that's just saying that, you know, they don't need adults because other adults everywhere are making sure that they're okay. And little kids don't make messes because they're taught to clean up after themselves when they're really young. This next one is called Babies Nap Outside, even during the winter. So Scandinavian children are raised on the foundation of, let's see if I can pronounce this word. I don't think I can. Friluftsliv. I don't know if that's right, but it's okay. It's Scandinavian, so we don't need to know that word. Or open air living. So that's what this word means, open air living. It isn't abnormal. So it isn't, the word abnormal right here just means it isn't out of the ordinary. It isn't unusual to see babies napping outside in their strollers, unattended, even in the wintertime. Meaning people put their babies just in their strollers, like they just put them outside and the babies are just sitting there sleeping. And this says, okay, so this is kind of a confusing sentence, but it says, expat parents have been arrested in the US because of the common practice. So expat is a word in English that we use for people who have moved away from the country that they were born in, and they become a citizen of another country because they chose to. Not because they had to because of safety or because they were worried about their family. An expat is somebody who gains citizenship in another country by choice because they want to. So it's saying that parents who are from this culture have been arrested in the United States because they've left their babies outside in the cold, because to people in the US, that's, you know, bad. That's child abuse. That's what we think. So it's like, you don't leave your kid outside, but to them, it's okay and it's good for the babies. So these countries think like Nordic countries, Scandinavia, that's like Sweden, Finland, those kinds of countries. Um, they believe that their babies napping outside, even in the cold, is healthy for them, that it's good for them. Okay, this next one is called toilet training from birth. So it says Chinese babies are taught to relieve themselves. Relieve themselves is another way to talk about using the bathroom. So it's a polite way to say, like, I have to use the bathroom. So instead of saying, I need to use the bathroom, you could say, I need to relieve myself, or they need to relieve themselves. Just means that they have to use the bathroom. Into the toilet on command of a parent's whistle, sometimes starting when they are only a few months old. Many kids are fully potty trained by age 2. So this is saying that some families in China, I don't know how common this is, but that they teach the babies to use the bathroom when the parent whistles. So that they learn how to use the bathroom when they're very, very young. Um, in the US, kids are kind of old when they learn how to use the bathroom, because in the United States and a lot of Western countries, we wait until the kid can take themselves to the bathroom. So we have to wait for them to start walking. Less time in the classroom. So this one says, students in Finland rank among the smartest in the world. They are consistently at or near the top of OECD rankings for math, science, and reading according to the Times. So all of these words right here, they're not really important. They're just telling you that there's a way that they measure like kids' intelligence, how smart they are. And the students in Finland are very high. They are very good at math and science and reading. But this is surprising because they don't start school until they turn 7. So they don't go to school until they are 7 years old. So what they do instead of going to school before that, they are expected to play and be physically active, calling the first 7 years of life a time for creativity. So that's way different, kind of parenting, right? They don't send their kids to school until they're 7. And they don't have a lot of homework, and they have a lot of long holidays. So to people in Finland, that's good. That's good parenting, making sure your kid goes to school when they're 7. So these are just some ideas of the different ways, people are raised. And it isn't true that like every person does this from that country or place or culture, but just that it happens there. So this one says more time traveling the world. You can read this on your own, but basically it's saying, in Great Britain, so England and other countries outside of the US, take a gap year between high school and college. So that means that students between 18 and 25 years old took a gap year to travel, work, and volunteer. So people do this in places like England, but not in the US. This isn't normal in the US, that after high school, they take a year to work somewhere or travel places, just to see and explore. Kids and adults eat and drink the same things. So this one's interesting. Adults in Italy aren't the only ones sipping on a glass of red wine, because it's supposed to be, it means red wine, with dinner. Their kids are too. According to a study by Boston University Medical Center, Italian children who were raised with wine at dinner time were less likely to develop harmful drinking patterns in adulthood. wine and the responsible consumption. Responsible again means like you are in charge, you know, wine and the responsible consumption of it is so important to Italians that it's included in the primary school curriculum. So they teach it at school, where students start learning about their country's wine culture at 6 years old. So that's saying wine, which is alcohol, right? Kids are learning about it when they're really young and they're drinking it and they're being taught what's healthy, like what's a healthy amount, like that kind of thing. And while Italian kids are raised to be responsible drinkers, French kids are raised to be sophisticated eaters. Sophisticated means just like very fancy. French kids eat at the same nutritious, balanced meals as adults. Um, so it just means that, you know how, if, for example, in America, we have baby food and we have food that's made for kids, stuff that's kind of exciting, like dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, that kind of stuff. But apparently in France, kids eat the same kind of foods that adults are eating, very fancy foods, very adult foods. Um, and it's part of how they teach them how to eat. All right, so this one is called All Hands on Deck Parenting. Now, all hands on deck is a phrase in English that we use. It's from like ships, like it's saying everybody needs to work together. Everybody come and work. So this says, in many parts of Africa, the responsibility of raising a child lies with entire extended families, but even non-relatives are happy to help out. It isn't unusual for mothers to share breast milk with other people's children in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Kenya. Researchers have even discovered men breastfeeding children among the Central Africa's Aka Pygmy tribe, uh, according to The Guardian. So this one's saying that it isn't just the parent, the person that gave birth, or the person that fathered the child. It's not just their responsibility. It's aunts and uncles and grandparents, and it's everybody that lives there that can take care of the kid. Everybody is in charge of taking care of the kid. And so that's it for the reading. So just remember to try and think about, after today, just start to think about, what makes a good parent? What does it mean to be a good parent? And it could be something that you did when you had kids, or if you have kids now, or it could be from you don't have kids, but you've seen other people with kids. So that's it for the lesson today. Keep thinking about this question. Maybe start noticing, when you see parents and kids, what do you think makes a good parent?